Well, that sounds cool. That's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a good one. What's up, everybody? Mark with Sharks A Lot Academy here, and we're back. We're back again. A few less videos than normal this month. I have been steeped in lessons, a lot more than we normally have. So I've been working real hard to make sure we're delivering on all of those. And also, let's be real, Elden Ring came out. Come on. Can't blame me for that one. It's big Dark Souls, I know. That's why I love it. Who cares? But today, we are checking out Brand of Sacrifice, Lifeblood, featuring Will Ramos. I'm leaving that mistake in. Featuring Will Ramos. And I'm very excited about this because Will, as we know, is a very, very strong and talented vocalist. And I like Kyle Anderson a lot as well. We've talked about Brand of Sacrifice on the channel here before, and I'm excited to talk about it again. I'm excited to hear how their voices interplay and how these sounds kind of come together. Now, if you're new to the channel, if this is the first video you've seen, my name is Mark. I'm a metal vocalist myself. Goodness, I'm stuttering. I'm messing up my sounds a lot. I am a metal vocalist myself. Primarily, my main band is Kardashev, although I've been a part of Viremia and Neverbreath as well. I'm also a vocal coach. It's my full-time job. It's what I do for a living, teaching people how to make all sorts of crazy, distorted, nasty, gurgly sounds safely and efficiently. So what we do here is we take the reaction format, break it down, try to make it as educational as possible, and I explain to you what's going on, or sometimes if I'm a little stumped, my best guess as to what's going on, and we talk about it from there. So hopefully you learn something. If you do, let us know in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, all that cool stuff. Check us out on Patreon if you want. We have a lot of events, a lot of vocal-themed events, listening parties, karaoke nights. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, I think that's enough of an intro. Let's go ahead and let's get into it. Brand of Sacrifice, Lifeblood, featuring Will Ramos. It's just a visualizer, not a video, but I'm pretty sure the song will be good enough to make up for that. So here we go. Ooh. All right, let's stop there. Ooh, we got it within the 40-second range. We're winners here. If you know, you know. So I want to talk about a couple things. So the tone here is awesome. I love the tone. I love the mids. I love the highs. The main thing that I found very impressive was the slow decrescendo, I guess we could call it, but that slow fading, that slow controlled release of that high vocal. I'm going to go back and just kind of show y'all what I'm talking about. But one thing that really exemplifies, and one thing that's really, really important with metal vocals, is even airflow, right? We really want to have a lot of even airflow, regardless of what type of vocal you're doing. False chord, fry, clean, gritty belting. I don't care what it is. Even airflow is one of the most foundational things that you should get down. And because we control even airflow a lot with, entirely with our diaphragm, abdominal muscles, right? As well as staying relaxed in the throat. It's something that you should continually do. I'm a firm believer in that nobody has ever done working on breath support. Now, some people, when they're on tour for long periods of time, or that's their main job, they do vocals like every single day. They may not have to as often set time aside to focus in on breathing. Right. But for a lot of us, myself included, even though I spend most of my time giving lessons, it's important for you and me and everybody else to set aside time to keep those muscles going. Right. So let's go back to 18 seconds here. It sounded like a tunnel. I mean, we'll go back and we'll hear it. But I loved that very controlled, like, that was sick. Let's go ahead. Let's go back. And then we'll take pay a little bit more attention to those mids, and I'll let it run for a little while so we can actually hear the song. But if you want to hear the song uninterrupted, you're in the wrong place. Let's go. right, it sounds like we found ourselves probably the chorus. So I want to talk about a couple things. First and foremost, I love how the lows and the highs and the mids are all interweaving. They're all working together. Like the high will start to fade away, and then like a mid comes in, and then the mid starts to fade away, and a low comes in. That's super cool. So one thing I'm noticing about every vocal I'm hearing is that the articulation is very snappy, very, very punchy, right? A lot of times with metal, and I'll be real, I don't mind this. This is a common criticism of metal. I don't care. Is that it's too muffled and too unintelligible. Sometimes people do that on purpose. And if that's the sound you're going for, I mean, I've done that on purpose before, because sometimes you just want to sound like an exploding toilet. It's just true, right? But other times you want to be very nice and very articulate. And those are artistic choices that I think we should all be able to make. A lot of that, again, comes from even airflow, but also not over projecting and not like just dumping a bunch of air out of our voice, right? That's a big common problem that you find with people who are new to clean singing as well. They'll dump a lot of air into their mouth. It'll build up pressure, and then it'll puff out. I did that plosive on the microphone on purpose so you could see what I'm saying. But like, we'll have somebody and they'll sing, "Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you." You hear I'm kind of leaning, "Happy birthday, dear YouTube." Right? We'll run into that. We run into that a lot with metal vocals as well. One of the main ways that you're going to handle that, outside of the low-hanging fruit, obvious advice that always applies, which is work on your breath support and know what breath support means when it applies. But it's also going to be understanding that you likely need a lot less air than you think you do. It is true that many vocal styles are breathier and airier than our normal voice, right? Because when we're using our true chords, right, our actual vocal folds for clean, clear phonation, like I'm using right now, right there, like that, they're creating, well, if you have healthy vocal folds, right, or if you're free of any sort of like dysphonia, right? Any sort of muscular issues, muscular tension, things like that, your vocal folds are going to be meeting, and they're going to be meeting very evenly and vibrating very, very quickly, letting a little tiny jet of air move out. This being said, when we're doing false chord vocals and even a lot of fry vocals, although there are some people who can hold their fry vocals for a really long time, often, I'm being very careful to say often, we're going to be using more air. However, it's probably not as much as you think, right? For example, the main way that I do my vocals, and a lot of people do their vocals, is I combine mostly false chord and arytenoidal sounds, but sometimes I'll put a little fry touch under there. Very rarely do I do fry vocals by themselves. I would say that's out of all the vocals I can do, fry is the area where I'm the least experienced, although I teach plenty of people and they do fine. However, if I take like my bass sound that I'll use for mid, and I'm going to make it quiet, and I'm going to remove the bells and whistles, it really doesn't sound like much on its own, right? We're just so that was a lot more fry influenced. But when I'm doing that, right? When I'm doing that, it's not like I'm pushing out a lot of air. Let me do something a little bit more open. Right? All of those sounds, what I'm doing is I'm utilizing a reserve of air pressure in my lungs, mild air pressure, to allow the airflow and thus my phonation, right? The speech sounds or the communication sounds that I'm making to release from my body versus push from my body. A lot of vocalists, if they do their vocals off stage or off camera, they can just kind of hang out. It can just be like, "Hey, what's up? Good to see you right there. Thanks for watching this YouTube video." Right? And both Kyle Anderson and Will, I spat on myself, gross. Both Kyle Anderson and Will Ramos are very good at both of those things. I've seen Will do it on like TikTok and such. I've never seen Kyle do it, but just from the sound of his control, he's absolutely able to. So, I'll shut up soon here, but with our vocals, if you're still having trouble, you may be putting too much focus on the grit and not enough focus on the airflow, right? We'll probably talk about that a little bit more here in a second, but let's keep going. Sorry, we're talking about it. Ugh. All right. So one thing that I really like about, I'll keep this fairly brief, I promise. Or do I? One thing I really appreciate about the high vocals that I'm hearing in this section, I'll be honest, I'm having a little bit of trouble picking out Kyle from Will, probably because I haven't listened to either Lorna Shore or Brand of Sacrifice for a little while. But, well, I get very little time to listen to music just for fun anymore at all. Small price to pay. But one thing I'm really loving about these vocals is there's so much manipulation of the vowel sound rather than the distortion mechanism, right? Okay, so like, what do I mean by that, right? When we are screaming, the vast majority of the time, we are creating sounds that are just pure texture, right? Pure texture, right? And what I mean by that is like, okay, if I hold like a high vocal, right? If I'm just like, you don't hear Mark, right? You don't hear the goofy guy on YouTube, right? What you hear is just grit and popping and scratchy, awesome sounds, right? Now it shouldn't feel scratchy or poppy, right? But that's what it sounds like, right? This is a common criticism for metal vocals, is because you lose a lot of the natural sound that comes with somebody's voice because they're so maximal. I think that if you don't like that, that's actually a fair criticism, but we're all here because we love it, right? Go away. Weird notification popping up. But so let's go back to the modulation of vowels. So if I'm going to do just like a really boring, bland, high vocal, right? Just that's very stock. It's very straightforward. If you can do that, you should be very proud of it, and it's going to sound amazing in a lot of things. But here, when we're running with just all this texture, the majority of the control we're going to have over the sound, changing the sound, is going to come from the shape of the oral cavity, right? We're getting into modulation, we're getting into vowel formants, we're getting into all these cool things, right? But to just kind of keep it simple, think about speaking your vowels in different ways, right? Like, I speak English, clearly. It's the only language I have a really good handle on. Most of the time when I say ah, it's ah, right? Father, operator, candelabra, right? Ah, ah, ah. All my ahs are the same. That doesn't mean they have to be when I scream, right? I can say ah, 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 ah. I hit more of an ah there, but you see what I mean, right? So if I have that, I can play around with it. What happens if I lift the back of my tongue and curl my lips and right? What happens if I purposefully lower my soft palate slightly? I get a lot of like a more wet, like almost drippy tone, right? And I hear a lot of that going on because I am in my 30s, right? I got familiar with this concept listening to Travis Ryan in Cattle Decapitation, which, like, if you haven't heard Cattle Decapitation, you should, because like. Some of the best vocal work I've ever heard in my life. And hearing like Kyle and Will and Alex Terrible and all these people kind of carrying that forward, it brings me joy. So we're just going to pick up from here and keep going because we're 15 minutes in. We got time. We got plenty of time. Let's keep going. Yeah. I want to point out something really quickly. I'm sure they're going to do the chorus again. And I love how, if I'm hearing the lyrics correctly, he's saying it's time to rise up from the ashes, but he's pronouncing it's time to rise from the ashes, from the ashes, right? Adding in a little bit of a syllable for a little gallop, playing around with that cadence. I love it. And I think that, that's one of my favorite things about metal vocals in general, right? And this is really only as true as you believe it is. But Generally, I find that in clean singing, there are a lot more rules as far as like what you should and shouldn't do, especially if you're playing around in like the classical and like the opera words. Like, this is how you pronounce a vowel. And by the way, classical and opera are not my forte. So if you are deep into opera, deep into classical, I'm sure Elizabeth would have, from the Charismatic Voice, would have a couple things to say about this. But there's a lot more structure, right, in those schools of thought, in those styles of singing. And that's part of what makes them so beautiful. Inversely, one of the coolest things, the things that I love about metal, and it's not exclusive purely to metal, but you hear it a lot, is that as long as you're safe and as long as you sound cool, do whatever you want. Like, pronounce words however you want, you know, and it doesn't matter. You'll get criticism for sure, but it is like metal vocals are such a playground. And even though sometimes because I live, eat, breathe, and sweat metal music, even though sometimes I do like have to take a break from it every once in a while, part of what always pulls me back is how just how acrobatic and inventive people can be with their pronunciation. So feel free to do that. One thing I'm going to mention as well here is we had a section of highs that sounded higher than any previous ones before. I could be wrong about that. The curse of, you know, for first time listens and all that. It's possible I heard this before, but I don't remember it. Oftentimes I find with students that when they're trying to access higher space, what they're going to do is they're going to move their larynx up and they're going to squeeze their vocal folds, regardless of if they're doing false chord or fry. This is a very common and understandable instinct, but it's actually going to work against you in many, many ways. Going back to what I said before, we're working with pure texture. All we need to do is shift our resonance, right? Change the shape of the instrument from the back of the tongue up and forward, and it'll do 99% of what we need it to without us having to hunker down, squeeze, bear down needlessly in our actual throat. Okay. So for an example, a lot of times people will want to do nasal resonance, and they'll want to be, by the way, this is way more nasal than you'd probably want to do with singing. Kind of an example of what I'm talking about, but they'll want to do like, right there, yeah, right there, huh? But if you listen to the quality of my voice, you'll hear that it's quite open. My tongue is up and lifted, opening up the pharyngeal space. I've got a lot of space back here. The sound is sort of moving up and I'm isolating the frequencies, those bright pingy frequencies. I'm bringing those forward in like the mix of my voice, so to speak. I'm not talking about mixed voice. I'm just saying like our voice is a stack of frequencies and I'm changing the balance, right? Right there. What a lot of people will do is they'll do this. Right there. Do you hear how those sound really similar? Right there, like that. That one's going to bug you. That one's going to cause you problems. And you'll either not be able to do highs, or you will be able to do highs and then you'll get like one or two songs in and you'll be really, really tired or sore, right? Everything can be open. If I remove the nasality, you'll hear that I'm just holding a normal open voice, right? Right there, like that. Resonance is doing the work for me. Versus right there. I can't back off of that because it's coming from pressing down on my vocal folds. And you can kind of hear me do this, right? So I'm going to take like a low high. I'm going to take a low high and I'm going to slowly I'm going to raise it just with my larynx, or just with my resonance independent of my larynx. Now, I will say that sometimes you're going to have to drive a little bit more with your abdominal cavity, right? You're going to have to hold things open, bear down with your support, activating those abdominal muscles to lift your voice into the resonance space. But again, we do this to be open and relaxed in our neck. So I'll do like right? So I'm going to bear down. Here we go. Neck relaxed. Right? If I did that with my clean voice, it was and if I back off of that nasality, you'll hear that my throat is relaxed. I'm projecting, but it's relaxed. Right? And you can move through those gears really, really easily. Let's keep going. Okay, this synth coming in is really cool. All right, I want to find that again because it's like I should have, when I was talking about manipulating vowels, I should have just gone a little bit longer because this is exactly what I was talking about. And then we had like these super slammy vocals. Google "I Declare Goddess." If you know, you know. And it reminds me a lot of that. I want to find that. I want to find that again. So, and there's that Travis Ryan sound that I love. So yeah, this is perfect. As this is happening, right? There's no like tonal pitch from the vocal folds, but because we're shifting this resonance, and this is not like, this has got to be a Will Ramos section for sure, right? But because it's not like bam, it's bow, right? It's very da da da, very very quick and accurate slides or transitions, right? We're not sliding through the pitches. It creates this effect where we can hear these overtones, and it gives us that, right? So, right, right, that sort of thing. And that's a really, really cool thing to do. I don't hear a lot of other metal vocalists doing that, or at least to the degree that Will does. There's a lot of this. Right? And it's a lot about, when I do this, well, the Kardashev doesn't have any room for this, that's for sure. We've softened up as we've gotten older. But you know, as I do this, I think about this as like two little levers, right? Or like there's like even like a metal bar going through my cheeks, and I can just pull that bar, right? Right. And then we've got the signature snarl sound. Awesome. Let's keep going. Don't tell me I can't dance, I'll cry. I'm delicate. Ah. All right. Man, the fade outs. Listen, it's not a criticism of the song. It is nothing but a personal preference. I just don't love fade outs. And it's literally just that. Like, there's nothing wrong with fading out. If your band is doing fade outs, I literally have nothing bad to say about them, other than like I just like a more punchy, more resolved ending. And that's just me. But who cares? I also want to there are like 10 million things I want to talk about. So the first thing is, I love Kyle's mids. Kyle's mids are, and it's going to sound kind of counterintuitive, but they're so clean, right? They're distorted. I'm not saying that he has clean vocal, but they're so just like clean and open and controlled and effortless. In my opinion, some of the most effortless sounding mids out there, right? You can tell, and this is a good idea by the way, for any of you budding vocalists out there, my suspicion, and I could totally be wrong about this, but my suspicion is that he probably spent a lot of time working on mids and then moved to lows or highs from there. Now, listen, I could be totally wrong, and maybe it's like, nah, I'm just really good at them. And that happens. Some people are just naturally good at this stuff. I was not one of them. I spent like a year doing just highs, and then I wanted to get the lowest lows possible. And then when I had to do mids, I was like, what the heck? And it took me a long time to realize that lows and highs can just be mids, right? I can just take like an and just turn that into a mid. It took me a long time to realize that. And then I love how I'm pretty sure it was Will again. He like pronounced blood as right, just all this movement, right, just something like that. It was awesome. So we'll go ahead, we'll call it there, because that outro was dope, and I loved it. But yeah, so just to kind of wrap it up here. Think a lot about your airflow. If you're having trouble with your scream and you spend 99% of your time on your creating the grit, you may want to look at your airflow, right? Like, for example, if I'm trying to drive my car faster and I spend my whole time pushing the gas pedal down, like, ain't gonna work if I don't have actual gas in the car, right? So if your distortion is constantly falling backwards, right? You're trying to do, this is a really common sound for people doing, trying to do highs, right? Trying to learn and teach themselves how to do highs. You'll have like this, right? You'll get that sound. Chances are, if that's the case, you need to relax. And then after you've relaxed, you need to open up and utilize a little bit more breath support. So you can take that, relax, right? Ease through it. And if you have trouble figuring it out on your own, some people can, right? Some people are totally capable of self-teaching. Not everybody needs lessons. But if you're having difficulty, I'm here to help you. And you can email me using the address below, either in the video or in the description. Whatever Ludo decides to do. Maybe he'll do something sparkly here. It's up to him. I don't know. Anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you all for hanging out with me. This beautiful Sunday probably is when this is going up. I'm filming it on a Wednesday, recording it on a Wednesday. But if you enjoyed the content, again, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Means a lot to me, especially as we've kind of slowed down videos because we've been slammed with other stuff. Keeping the channel afloat, keep with semi-consistent uploads is really nice, and seeing that y'all are watching them and having a good time as well means a lot to me. If you want to join in on some vocalist fun and non-vocalist, right? Check us out on Patreon. Most of what happens on Patreon goes on Discord. We have listening parties and events every Friday night. We have karaoke events once a month where sometimes we get people to join in. Last karaoke event, we had Johnny from Carcosa sitting in and kind of letting people know how they did. One of the songs we did was a section of Vermin, and that was a lot of fun. And yeah, I did it. I was nervous. I'm not gonna lie. My nerves got the best of me at one point because I was like, I'm screaming this guy's song in front of him. So I think my mids were a little whack, but whack, what year is it? Anyways, check us out on Patreon if you'd like. But more than anything, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you checking us out. Remember to gurgle safely, I guess. And as always, many thanks, much love. I'm out.